Good morning, still morning, and welcome back to the September 19th meeting of Orange County Planning and Zoning Commission, local planning agency, which I call back to order. And let's continue with our agenda with our next case.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be presenting this next case. This will be the adoption round for this next request, which is two-part. Again, we're here at the adoption stage. The BCC hearing is already scheduled. That'll be October 8th. So this is known as the Hartzog Attainable Community Housing Project. It currently does not have a future land use designation or zoning. So they are selecting the village future land use. So this would be an expansion of Horizon West, and it would be the apartment district within Horizon West. And it's a rezoning to PD, Planned Development District. The property is approximately 114 gross acres, 75 net acres. The proposed use is 1,410 affordable multifamily dwelling units. It'd be mixed income. 75% of the units would be affordable, and 25% would be market rate. The subject property is located in District 1. This is an aerial of the subject property. It is bounded on the west by Avalon Road, on the north and east by Hartzog Road, just west of State Road 429. The site was the rapid infiltration site. It's no longer used for that, so it's pretty much just vacant right now. It does have wetland, mostly on the southern portion of the site. So again, for future land use designation, it does not have one now. The proposal is village. For the Horizon West Special Planning Area designation, it does not have one now, but with the expansion of Horizon West, it would be given the apartment and wetland designations. And zoning, none currently exists, but it would be planned development. This is the land use plan showing just generally where the wetland is located. There is a small impact, approximately 0.26 of wetland impacts. 0.14 is of direct impacts, and 0.12 is of secondary impacts. Otherwise, the apartment area would be the uplands, and the rest of the wetlands would not be disturbed. This is some photos of the subject site. And then this is looking south of the subject site, to the west, to the north, and to the east. Again, this is the aerial map. There was notices sent out beyond 1,500 feet from the subject property, 2,881 notices. We did receive approximately 21 back in opposition, stating concerns for too many apartments, traffic, overcrowded schools, noise, and crime. I will just note that Orange County Public Schools has determined that capacity is available based on the relief schools that are programmed to open. So staff is recommending approval and adoption, and staff is available for any questions.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please state your name, your address, and if you agree with staff's recommendations, and if you have anything else to add.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you. I also had to check to make sure it was good morning, so I will say good morning. I am Julie Kendig-Schrader with Greenberg Traurig, 450 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida. I am here today on behalf of the applicant, and yes, we do agree with the recommendations and the conclusions in the staff report. I have a short presentation that I would like to present. Is it all right? Yeah, just tell me when you're ready. All right, when this application was presented to you back in February, we walked through the plans for a mixed income housing development. So as a reminder of what was shared previously, more than 1,000 of the units in this community will be reserved for affordable housing, which will significantly expand the affordable housing inventory in Orange County. The Michaels organization will build and operate the community subject to a 75-year deed restriction to ensure affordable housing remains. 75 years goes above and beyond what is normally seen for affordable housing communities. And Disney hopes that this will make a major impact on the Central Florida area for multiple generations, and that we will inspire other private companies to also participate in trying to address the affordable housing issues in Central Florida. The development will include a variety of amenities, green spaces, and more for residents, connected through an intricate network of sidewalks and pathways. And when I'm done speaking, I'm also going to call up our planner, Brian Forster, and then Mohammed Abdallah. So you're going to hear more information about things that we've done since the last time that we were in front of this board in February. So what does affordable mean in this context? The 1,000 plus units will be reserved for households that are in the 50 to 100% of the average median income levels within the Orlando, Kissimmee, and Sanford metropolitan area. Orange County leaders continue to share the area's critical need for affordable housing, and Disney is listening, and we are attempting to assist in addressing that issue. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we have done in the community since the last time that we were before you in February. At the last Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, Disney and the developer participated in another community meeting with residents. So we had done, as staff indicated in their presentation, before we saw you in February, we had conducted one, what I'll call traditional community meeting. After we came before you in February, we went back and we held another community meeting with the residents. This one was a little different. We invited our subject matter experts, our transportation experts, environmental people to talk about schools, and we set up different stations so that the residents could directly speak to the experts who could talk to them about their primary areas of concern. Since that time, we have also continued to understand the importance of communicating with the residents, and we actually have 2 dedicated employees who have been out in the community discussing the project and working on the community and soliciting feedback from the neighbors so that we can incorporate that into the project. I share all of this because Disney continues to work in lockstep with county staff and the developer to address and integrate both their feedback and feedback from the community into our plans. Today, we want to share with you some of the changes that Disney and the developer have worked to address that feedback. As you know, we're actively working with county staff, and we anticipate that there will be even more changes in response to community concerns prior to our attendance before the Board of County Commissioners hearing. So for now, I would like to call Brian Forster with Land Design to come up and talk about the specific site design changes that have been made since the last time that we were before you. Thank you. Yeah, there's
Good morning. My name is Brian Forster from Land Design, business address 100 South Orange Avenue, Suite 200, Orlando, Florida 32801. Earlier this year, the Commission shared thoughts on the density of this development. We wanted to let the Commission know that we continue to work on the site plan, and we can share today that the current plan does include fewer units than the initially requested 1410. The developer expects to have around 1,369 units total, which will be solidified during the DP process. There will be a slight consolidation of buildings, which allows for increased open space, including 2 additional acres fronting Avalon Road, where the developer is planning to build a community park. This park will be open to anyone, including neighboring Horizon West residents, to enjoy. The development team is working to gather feedback directly from Horizon West residents about the kinds of things they'd like to see at that park. There was also a lot of discussion at the past commission about neighboring retail and services. We wanted to point out that the Village Center to the northwest of this development includes a now open Publix, along with various other proposed tenants, including McDonald's and Fifth Third Bank, which are currently going through the DP process with county. Mohammed We'll share more about this, but thanks to a planned traffic signal and crosswalk at our Avalon Road entrance, residents of our future community won't have to get into their car to access these businesses. I'd like to hand things over to Mohammed Abdallah, who will share updates to the transportation plans.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Commissioners. Mohammed Abdallah, Traffic and Mobility Consultants, 3101 McGuire Boulevard, Suite 265, Orlando, 32803. Our firm completed the traffic study for this community. We worked hand in hand with county staff, worked through the process to make sure that the analysis and the findings are consistent with the county's requirements. The outcome of the study was, as Brian just mentioned, we found that a traffic signal and a new median opening on Avalon Road, right there where the mark is warranted, and that traffic signal will go a long way to facilitate interconnectivity between the community and the adjacent retail. Oh, I just killed it. Okay, here we go. Press the wrong button. So if looking at the screen where the signal locations are, that the larger signal down there to the south, that would be a new traffic signal that this community will install on Avalon Road. And if you look over to the right, that bottom right screen, that's a quick snapshot of what that intersection would look like, subject to further engineering. But you can see there are signalized crosswalks that provide right-of-way for pedestrians to get across the street back and forth, where today there's only one location. There will be two areas where these residents can walk not only to shopping, but across the street, the retail centers have quite a bit of employment where these residents may be employed and can walk to their jobs as well. In addition to this community is supporting and in talks with the county to fund and construct the additional turn lane improvements that you see, the 2 turn lanes above. That's at Hartzog Road and at Seidel Road. These are being done above and beyond the requirements of what would typically be required of a development in the county. So the community is pitching in to help traffic flow along Avalon to be smoother, especially out of Waterley and off of Seidel Road. And finally, we have an agreement with the county going forward for proportionate share mitigation, which is north of $3 million that this community will provide to the county to help continue to speed up and spur the improvements to Avalon on the corridor to get the 4 lanes that have been planned in this area in the ground and deliver those to the community in lockstep with this development as it moves forward. And all of these things are happening very early in the process than you would typically see them. And the whole point is to help our neighbors realize the transportation improvements that they've been waiting for. With that, I'll turn it back to Julie.
Thank you, Mohammed and Brian. The most important thing that we want the commission to know today is that Disney is trying to help their neighbors and help the Central Florida community. We want to help the teachers, the police officers, the grocery store employees, the hospitality employees, and folks who are just starting out in their career have a safe and affordable place to live. This is a really important private initiative that will contribute significantly to the supply of affordable housing in Central Florida, and we hope that you help to make that possible. We have our team here today to answer questions. For now, we'd like to reserve the remainder of our time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to the public comment portion of this hearing. Do we have any members of the public who have signed speaker cards? Jason?
Yes, the first speaker will be Charles Hassel. Following Charles will be Sarah Hibbs.
Good morning, Board. My name is Charles Hassel. 16943 Wing Spread Loop, Winter Garden, Florida, happy resident of Horizon West. When I start, let me just first say that for all the folks, we in Horizon West are not against attainable housing. We're for attainable housing. So anyone that's going to come up and mention that it's needed, we agree. We're with you. What I'm going to talk about is the location, the exact location for attainable housing, and I'll present a solution, a possible solution also. So, the issue. On the map, you saw that this is going to get built over some existing water infrastructure, pipes and sand pits that return water to our aquifers. That's a problem. And you'll be told that these are no longer in use. They were used 3 years ago, and even if they aren't in use today, there was still money that was put in to develop that infrastructure. Why are we building over that when there are plenty of areas to build that don't have this water infrastructure? It doesn't need to get demolished. It doesn't need to get removed. There's plenty of areas for this. Number two, safety. Now, about 2 hours ago, you all listened to a development of 55 homes in a residential community that was going to exit onto a 2-lane road. This is adding 1,400 homes, not 55, onto a 2-lane road. Let me repeat that. We just had concerns over 55 residential homes exiting on a 2-lane road. This is adding 1,400 homes also onto a 2-lane road. That also has a school, access to our middle school and elementary school. Safety is a concern. Safety was a concern even before, even if this doesn't get built. And I'm not talking about numbers of traffic or additional things. I saw 2 weeks ago a middle schooler get hit on Avalon Road in this area. And it's not a number. I witnessed it. And I'll tell you what I saw. A limp body on the side of the road, bleeding, and his left leg was contorted. The only way it was possible is it was broken in about 4 or 5 places. 2 weeks ago. Why are we going to add to the problem? We already have issues. You saw the housing around the area. These turn lanes don't solve it. 4-lane road won't solve it. This is just adding to the issue. Environmental is a concern. Why are we building on top of sand and water pits that would introduce water back to our aquifers that is from our apartment complex? I think they gave me extra time.
I hadn't heard
I don't
anything
see
about
record.
that.
Oh, what's your name? What's your name? Joseph Marvito. Okay, I don't see it, but 1 minute.
All right, 1 minute more.
I'll be very quick then. So environmentally, doesn't make sense. Things that access water to our aquifers, and we're going to build sewer pipes and apartment complex on top of it. However, here's the key. And board members, if you could limit your eyes, please limit your eyes. I served our country for 20 years. I only asked for 47 seconds. Here's the solution. The original location was west of Flamingo Crossing on Western Way, which is about 1.5 miles from here. It solves these issues. The residents will be happy. Attainable housing can still get built. There's no issues. There are walk paths across the road, which solves a safety issue. It's a 4-lane road already there. There's shopping right there as a Target. Everybody can win in this situation. Everybody. We don't have to, you got a unique situation where everyone can leave happy. If you just vote no on this and let's move it to the original location, how do I know that? It was on your ArcGIS map from the county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
So
And-
Sarah has, is being given time by, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other individuals. I just need to make sure you're in this
Okay.
room. Pam,
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody that's seeking additional time lets us know ahead of time, so we don't go through this confusing situation like we just did.
So Pam Belts, are you, okay. James Belts, Christopher Waters, okay, Patrick Ferguson, and Terry Marabita. Okay, gotcha. All right, so that'll be 8 minutes.
Okay, hi, my name is Sarah Hibbs. I live at 16049 Ridgehaven Alley in Winter Garden. So Horizon West was sold to the residents as a master plan community with land use designations set out far ahead of our neighborhood's development. There are currently 7 apartment complexes within a half-mile radius of this proposed project's property boundary. That's 2,010 apartments that can be seen or physically touch the proposed development. And then looking beyond that, there is an entire list of apartments constructed within a 3-mile radius of this proposed project. Back in March of this year, when we begged the BCC not to approve allowing the application to move forward, there were about 3,000 apartments in the vicinity with a 13.6 vacancy rate. Now, within a 3-mile radius of the proposed project site, there are now 3,600 apartments constructed with another 2,300 on the way. That is 5,900 apartments within a 3-mile radius of this property that was promised to be in our area that was supposed to be a single-family homes with a couple of apartments around. Moreover, the apartments of the apartments already built, nearly 20% of them are currently available to rent. Right now, like we can go walk in and rent them as we speak. This is over 3 times the national average per the Federal Reserve Bank. The apartment complexes are offering free months of rent, waiving application fees and deposits, all of which are signs of an area with low occupancy rates and oversaturation. And so all of this stuff is publicly available information. So our area is obviously saturated with apartments. Of the proposed 1,420, I guess now 13, whatever, only 320 of them, less than a quarter, will actually be rented to families at the affordable rates, which is less than the prevailing market rate. The other 1,100 homes are used to make a profit for the Michaels organization. Accommodating an additional 320 families in homes that they can afford is a really small thing in the grand scheme for all of the community to support, and it's a really low social cost to the existing residents. I doubt any of us oppose this. We're all for it. But that's not what's being asked of us. Our community is already handling a disproportionate load of social costs of the growing area, including defending ourselves from constant exploitation by developers, managing our lives using unsafe and lagging road development, sending our children to very overcrowded schools, being locked out or into our own neighborhood and community during emergencies when Avalon Road is blocked, and on and on. It keeps going. The additional 1,100 homes needed for the profit margins to support those 320 homes is 4 times the social cost imposed on this area and the tens of thousands of tax-paying homeowners. I mean, is that a fair price to place upon us? Were any of these social costs considered when you approved the 5,900 other homes and apartments in this area? Why weren't the needs of these affordable housings for those 320 families considered in any of those actions? Are the profits of the Michaels organization more important than the needs of your citizens? In addition to the market saturation issue, there's a clear language in the comp plan that dictates the Disney project cannot be placed at this proposed location. As I previously noted, Horizon West was sold to us as a planned development with specific guiding principles and rules. For the Orange County comp plan, each village shall have a well-defined edge, such as green belts or wildlife corridors, permanently protected from development. Let's take note of that permanent part of that phrase. You can see that this implemented across the villages with green belts constructed providing that well-defined edge. Additionally, the prescribed green belts are required to be approximately 500 feet wide, except for the perimeters adjacent to the designated Water Conserved 2 lands that otherwise provide permanent undeveloped edge. Water Conserved 2 is the county's way of handling the wastewater treatment plant effluents by pumping them first into our reclaimed system, but also into these rapid infiltration basins, the RIBs, which provide the water recharge for our aquifer, which is our drinking water source. We have these RIBs everywhere in our area surrounding Horizon West. Notice how they're being used as the permanent undeveloped edge for the villages of Bridgewater and Town Center just north of our future regional park. Here are some more RIBs along Avalon Road and Orange National Golf Course, where they're being used as the permanent undeveloped edge for the villages of Bridgewater, Town Center, and Village F. There are currently 13 ribs on this property for the proposed Disney project because they were part of the CFTOD's permitted wastewater disposal system, which requires 30% of their wastewater effluent to discharge into these ribs for aquifer recharge, so we can have drinking water in the future. Also, notice how these were the permanently undeveloped edge for Village H, identically to how the Water Conserve 2 lands are for all of the other villages. CFTOD's wastewater effluent system and ribs are serving the CFTOD properties, but also portions of Horizon West. The former RCID and CFTOD's comp plans both identify this property in future land use maps, and it's designated for public facility or utilities, which is, in fact, a land use. So to quickly review, the comp plan requires a well-defined edge or a green belt surrounding each village of Horizon West that is permanently protected from development. The comp plan further defines the green belt and allows for Water Conserve 2 lands to provide that permanent undeveloped edge. And the CFTOD ribs are functionally identical in form and function to the Water Conserve 2 lands. The Horizon West Master Plan and the future land use maps all indicated that the proposed project site was being used as the well-defined border that is permanently protected from development, despite being located in the CFTOD district. So the Orange County Comp Plan rules clearly intend for the land with the ribs to remain undeveloped. Based on the Orange County Comprehensive Plan requirements, this land should remain undeveloped in perpetuity. The entire purpose of these rules was to prevent this exact type of action from happening. So in anticipation of redeveloping these aquifer recharge basins into the ultra-high-density multifamily housing, Disney has certainly facilitated disconnecting these ribs from the wastewater disposal system, which was designed and permitted to include the 13 on-site basins. This blatantly circumvents the intent of the jurisdiction to another. If you would not allow any other entity to walk in here, change the Orange County utility system, disconnect the ribs, and then develop our permanently undevelopable protected lands into another completely different land use, then it should not be allowed here either. If this were up the road and it was a new back nine for Orange National or a new hospital building for the Horizon West Hospital, you would certainly say no. These scenarios are identical, except the other companies don't have the lobbying capabilities and special regulatory connections to do these backroom shady deals to make this magically happen. So this change is not consistent with the comp plan, and you should vote no. This proposed use does not follow with the underlying land use and should not be added to the Orange County future land use map. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we have any other speakers
Yes.
who have not devoted their time?
Correct, yeah. So Anach Whitfield will be the next speaker. Following Anach will be Tina Damaste. So,
Okay, well, maybe that won't work. Good afternoon. It is after 12 now, so we've gone from morning to afternoon. Board members, everybody. My name is Anach Whitfield. My address is 15168. Thank you. 15168 Chapter Way, Winter Garden, Florida.
I'm sorry, can you hold on one second? I'm getting somebody's donating to, what's
Oh,
your name?
yes, I'm sorry.
My apologies, yes, okay. 4 minutes.
Thank you, Jason. Again, Anach Whitfield, 15168 Chapter Way in Winter Garden, Florida. I am a resident in the area, and I'm also a seasoned planning professional. I've been a professional planner now for over 24 years. I've done county, city, state, private sector planning. I was a planning consultant for 5 years out of that time. So I've sat on both sides of the spectrum, so I wanted to share with you my concerns and questions from a resident's perspective as well. My first concern, like the other lady who spoke, is relative to traffic. I did have the opportunity to look at TMC's traffic analysis. One thing that I feel is missing that should be evaluated is the fact that it only looked at PM peak rates and not AM peak rates. Besides the fact that only using ITE trip gen tables for a traffic analysis for an impact of this size is inadequate. I feel that it should have been done via an actual trip count during the busiest times, during the peak. So just a little bit of education. ITE, AM, PM, AM is 7 AM to 9 AM. Peak is 4 PM to 6 PM. An evaluation of actual trips during that time, you will see that Avalon is significantly impacted and congested. Extending back from where Story Grove is, where the merge is now, as far as Schofield, not just Seidel Road. And I want to point out that while the gentleman, Mohammed, stated that traffic is fine and there are intersection improvements that can be made, turn lanes and whatnot, the traffic study pointed out 4 segments along Avalon Road that are failing, that are not failing now, but that will be failing because of this project. It's a 2.5 mile segment, as well as almost the entirety of old YMCA Road and parts of Seidel Road. So those are significant roadways and corridors in the Horizon West area. And that is just based on 2030 numbers. Given that they want to build in 2026, why are we looking at 2030 numbers? We should be looking at the impacts of this development at the end of construction, unless they plan on phasing out the construction itself, in which case then they could phase out traffic improvements. So that's one request, is to evaluate based on the AM traffic peak. The widening of Avalon Road, when is that going to happen? It's not going to happen anytime soon because the large property just south of this is constrained. The narrowest point of Avalon is just shy of 70 feet. Where Avalon is extended now to 4 lanes is significantly wider than that. How is widening going to even be an option? And because Avalon Road is a partnership road, the county will not make those improvements unless a development comes in to then add more trips and more demand on the roadway system. So a process where we count on private projects to help fund traffic conditions is flawed. I think Jason mentioned that there is available capacity for Orange County schools. Yes, I looked at the OCPS analysis. There is capacity. When it first came in 2023, there was not capacity. Where did the capacity come from? Relief schools that are currently, this was in 2023, the relief schools that they refer to now in OCPS's school capacity that says, oh, now there's available capacity. That relief school is already operating and is already at capacity or over capacity. So having a school evaluation that says that, oh, now there's capacity, when in fact that school is already over capacity, is also flawed. So that's speaking to just school capacity. And I'm running out of time, but the schools they're zoned to, if I could just get 30 more seconds.
Please finish.
Okay, thank you. These kids are going to Panther Lake, which is 2.5 miles away. They have to go to Water Spring Middle School, which is the relief school that is now over capacity. As residents, students and children being nearly hit, traffic is congested. I don't think operational improvements at intersections is enough. People are constantly illegally making left turn lanes from through lanes. I think that instead of just looking at manuals and books, someone needs to actually go out there and study the site itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
About 4 more. Tina, I saw her earlier. Marcos Aranjo. Following Marcos is going to be Pamela Gold.
Please state your name, your address.
Can we get
And
the
you'll-
overhead set up?
Okay,
I have
just
some
ask.
stuff to show. I will leave these for right now. My name is Marcos Araujo, 11135 Bostwick Alley, Winter Garden. First, I'd like to just mention that we just, on the previous case, that with Sorensen's solution for Disney to do this project, anything adjacent to Horizon West can become Horizon West. So according to this logic, we can actually claim all the rural ed all the way up to Winter Garden proper. So the protections on those rural settlements, approving this, it's opening the door for that. So this is a precedent case that you guys are going to have to be dealing with. Also, the community has requested a community meeting from Disney, traditional meeting if it's possible, but no response on that yet. Previous meeting that we had here, we made some requests from Disney. Those requests kind of went on deaf ears. I think only the apartments size numbers were corrected, but it still had some issues with that, right? This project on paper, it will advance Orange County's 10-year action plan. However, it fails to address the spirit of the project, affordability. It goes against its core tenets where it should be placed near public transit. This location, residents will be landlocked, requiring them to own, maintain a vehicle. That means gas, insurance, maintenance, and repair costs. Commissioner Bonilla, I believe, said at the BCC that this fact places this as a luxury apartment. Mentioned before, children will be required to walk or bike scooter to school, cross an Avalon, four-lane highway, high speeds. Since our last meeting, there have been accidents involving children from the existing apartments. There are other locations more suitable, near Flamingo Crossings, where they will have access to transportation. Company CEO sets the culture for the company, and the representatives follow it. It's no wonder that Disney has lost 60% of their stock value in the last 5 years by insisting introducing politics in their shows instead of focusing on good programming. And that shows, what kind of values they have by partnering with the Michaels organization. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but their former CEO was indicted for racketeering charges and influencing local municipalities such as this to influence business deals that would profit Michaels organization. Michaels organization also has been known for requiring use of NDAs when settling lawsuits, including class action lawsuits against them for poor living conditions, mold, pests, and those are from our military families. Imagine what's going to happen to those working class families that are going to be living in their property. As a matter of fact, I can actually show you because this right here is their Janie's Garden in Sarasota, Florida. They presented this picture on the last PCC meeting. I will show you after this some of the actual conditions on those apartments nowadays. Also, on the validity of my claims, I also have a letter from 5 U.S. senators to the Secretary of Defense asking them to, take a look at the policies from the DOD, and they're evaluating their relationship with the Michaels organization because of those practices. Yampa Valley, also right after the CEO got ousted, they sever their relationship with Michaels organization because of those issues. So I please also ask you to look at the people who will be living there if that's going to be something that they need. So let me just, for the record, to show the views. So take a look at maintenance and trash, and this is their crown jewel that they presented to PCC last time. Google review. This is a Horizon West info about the Michaels organization, asking Disney for comment on the CEO and their relationship with Michaels organization. So far, there has been no comments from Disney on that.
Okay, sir, your
Then
time is
the
over.
letter. This is just submitting things for the record, so this is actually not
Okay.
comments. And that's the letter from.
The next
to-
speaker is going to be Pamela Gold. followed then by Mary Thurston.
Good afternoon. I am Pamela Gould, or better known as Pam. I am the sitting school board member for about 2 more months for this area and have represented this area proudly for 12 years. Certainly, I wanted to put to rest, I could not make either of the community meetings, which I traditionally do. I had conflicts both times. We do have relief schools in the pipeline. One will actually open next year. I was doing a rezoning meeting, and the Disney site was included in the plan yesterday as we were calculating the numbers for relief. As you all know, the way relief works in Florida is we don't build schools in advance of development. So the schools are opened as development goes along, and then we open a school, the school, and then try to right-size each school as we go. So I just wanted to clarify that. From the attainable housing side, I have, for the last several years, been championing this for our own team members at OCPS. Right now, I have trouble getting bus drivers to work on the west side of town because it is too expensive for them to travel to get there, to get their buses. And then the time it takes to get back. So attainable housing and the more options that we can find are essential for our infrastructure and for our community. We want our teachers, even our graduates who are going to start their life, to be able to come back to their communities and live. And right now, there's not too many places in West Orange County that can happen. So that is something that needs to be corrected. I wholeheartedly agree that the road improvements need to be made. I was out actually at Sidell with the commissioner, the sheriff, Orange County staff. The only one we didn't have there was CFX because we realized that road improvements need to be made. The light will help make it a little bit safer. It's not the end be all, but it will help. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mary Thurston and then Allison Cassidy.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Thurston. I'm at 12081 Beowulf Way, right across the street, in Winter Garden, right across the street from the proposed project. I agree with a lot of things that some of the people have talked about, but one thing that really concerns me is we don't have cell service. So if we're not inside on our Spectrum internet, you can't make a phone call to 911. So we're now adding more people to put at risk. Our services are just, we're behind. We're building too fast, and things need to catch up. So, for example, I talked to the fire chief and the police commissioner at the last meeting, and I explained to them that the buses coming out of our neighborhood are coming onto a road, Avalon Road, at 55 miles an hour is what the speed limit is. And so this puts our children at risk who are riding the bus, and it puts these other children who've already been hit by cars at risk. So the speed limit is too fast. It's a 2-lane road, basically just south of where they're putting the crosswalk. And the kids, you know, the bus, I don't know what the mileage is for the bus service, but the bus service, you have to live a certain distance from the school. So most of these kids are walking, biking, or scooter riding with their parents or by themselves to school. And I just, emergency at the school, or if there's a bus wreck right outside our neighborhood, who is going to call 911? Because the phones don't work. There's no cell tower. So we have an emergency services problem. We have a water problem. We've been on boil water twice in the last 6 months in our neighborhood. So until some of these things get fixed, this stuff needs to be fixed before any more housing is built. Because there are 6 apartments right next to Publix across the street from this walkway there that they showed on the map. And those are not, people are not living there yet. At the front of our neighborhood, half the apartment complex or more are not, no one's living in there yet. When this is just going to add more children and more traffic and more people at risk. So that is what I have to say. And I'd like to yield my time to my new friend, Anakwa Whitfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Allison Cassidy. That's the last speaker I have in my list.
Hi. Allison Cassidy, 1832 Harmon Ave, Warner Park, Florida, 32789. My name is Allison Cassidy. I'm the executive director of the Orange County Democratic Party. We have a crisis here. Certainly, you're all aware of affordability in Orange County, particularly on the west side. As it's been pointed out, it is a lot of homes. It is an expensive area to live in. Folks who work at some of our largest employers like Disney, who just cannot afford to live on that side of town and are burdened with having to travel either across the county or with finding work elsewhere because they cannot afford to live in these areas on the west side of town. Having housing, having these apartments that are available and that are vacant is one thing. The problem is that folks cannot afford those. And so in order to have a healthy community, in order to have our schools fully staffed, in order to have our massive attractions like Disney and the parks fully staffed, we have to have places where working class folks who are making a living that is not enough to afford some of the housing that is available in these areas, we've got to be able to provide those folks somewhere that they have the dignity of a living space that is not costing them upwards of 50% of their salary, that is not draining their bank accounts, leaving them without the options for things like doctor's appointments and medication and other things that we know that people are having to go without because they just don't have the funds left over at the end of every month after they have paid an overwhelming amount of money on their living. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's all the speakers that signed cards. Is there anyone that would here who would like to speak on this issue that did not sign a speaker card and hasn't already spoken or yielded their time? Seeing none, I close the public comment period. Bring it back to this commission for discussion or a motion. Commissioner Gray.
Hi, we had a couple questions. Thank you all so much for your presentation and for the public comments and for your patience, since I know that people have been working on this and working against it for a very, very long time. I would say I was expecting some of the people in the green buttons to make public comments, but I guess you guys chose not to, but maybe next time. Just a couple of basic questions for the applicant, excuse me, I'm trying to search for the right word. In the presentation materials that we received, there were 3 things that we didn't see, and I don't know that, didn't know if you wanted to try to address them or not, just was what I was looking for. One was the breakdown of the affordability matrix. I know that they said that 75% of the units were going to be between 50% and 100% AMI, but I didn't see a specific breakdown of how many were going to be at 50%, 60%, 80%, and 100%, and I didn't know if that was something you could share.
Okay, and Julie Kendig-Schrader again. We had reserved a little bit of time for rebuttal, but if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and respond to your question, and then if it's okay if I...
Well, Thanks for reminding us of that.
I just wanted to make sure to
If you
respond to
wanted,
some
if
of
you
the
had
comments.
specific points that you wanted to rebut, you could, I think it's right that you should do that with
Okay.
your remaining time, and I think that you had 4 minutes and 57 seconds.
Okay, if you don't mind,
No,
Commissioner, if I.
of course, absolutely.
Okay, so briefly, just to cover some of the points, and then I'll also have Brian and Mohammed cover a few points. I just basically wanted to talk about the fact that there have been other apartments approved in this area. You know, and the issue is that they aren't affordable apartments. Just as a personal anecdote, I have a firefighter living in my house, a new firefighter, friend of the family, just graduated. I have 400 apartments across the street from me, 700 that just got approved, a half a block from my house. He can't afford to live there. So he lives with me until he makes enough money. And I think that goes to what Commissioner or School Board Member Gould also said. There may be apartments there, but the people who need to provide services in that area, like the school bus drivers and the firefighters, can't afford to live in them. And that's really the issue that we're trying to address here. I'm going to briefly call up Brian and Mohammed to address some of the other issues. Brian, if you don't mind talking a little bit about the ribs, and then Mohammed, if you could briefly, we have a few more minutes, just respond to some of the traffic, and then Commissioner, I'll get up and we can talk about the affordable housing bans.
Brian Forster again. Yeah, just to respond to the discussion on the ribs. The ribs that will be demolished or decommissioned that are on the community site were operated by the Reedy Creek Energy Services, which is a utility company for Disney property. The water that goes to those ribs, while it does recharge the aquifer, is mainly being disposed of because it's effluent that is exceeding the need for what's used for, say, irrigation water within Disney property. As infrastructure catches up and pipes are run through streets or through parks, and that irrigation is actually able to be used, the effluent that needs to get discharged to these ribs actually decreases. So that's actually the reason why these are no longer needed. It's just there's not as much water that needs to be lost into these ribs. So while they were being used in 2022, they are no longer being used now. So they're just being removed.
On that point, could I ask you, are those ribs part of Water Conserve 2, or are they part of Reedy Creek Improvement District or Reedy Creek's utility?
They're part of Reedy Creek Energy Services.
Okay, so they were never part of Conserve 2?
No.
Okay.
Good afternoon now. So just addressing some of the questions or comments that were made, the traffic analysis, just to clarify, was in fact conducted for the AM and the PM peak hours as is required by your methodology. We coordinated that with your staff. They've reviewed it and approved it. Just the way it's done, the impact on the network is heaviest in the PM peak, and that gets evaluated one way, but the AM peak also gets evaluated for operations and to make sure that vehicles can move through intersections. And that's why you saw the additional intersection improvements that this community is going to be implementing are really result of that analysis. As far as the use of ITE versus some other data, again, your methodology requires us to use ITE. That is the standard. That's the standard of the practice. There's nothing untoward about that, and it's appropriate use of the data. Finally, with regards to failing roadways or infrastructure as it relates to Avalon and this project, Horizon West was envisioned as I think the speaker Anoch mentioned, as a private-public partnership area. And this applicant and this community will be part of that partnership. They're contributing, as I mentioned, their $3 million for the proportionate share, above $3 million. But in addition to that, this community, being an affordable housing community, is entitled to a waiver or significant reduction in impact fees and transportation impact fees. This applicant has chosen to not take that waiver, and they will be paying full impact fees in order to help facilitate and speed up some of those infrastructure improvements that are on the books. So all of this is part of the plan, and the addition of this community actually helps to spur on additional improvements on the network. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a slide. I have a slide to address your question.
I'm going to clear my throat while I quietly pop a can of soda down below the desk.
I didn't hear a thing.
Thank you.
No, this is the applicant's presentation, so it would be right after the staff. I'll go on ahead and start talking while they're putting our slide up. So you've asked, do you mind repeating your question?
Of course, I have a couple. So
Okay.
I'll just do my questions, and I'll have some comments after the rest of the commissioners have asked questions too. So the first question was the range or breakdown of affordability, and you have it right here. So 50%, 11% of the apartments in this complex would be available for families at 50% of the area median income, 21% at 60% of the area median income, 38% at 80% and below, and then 30% at 100% AMI and below. So thank you. That's great. That's exactly what I needed. And then,
Do you mind if I just follow up real quick, Commissioner?
of course.
So one thing about this project that makes it very unique is we are private financing. We're not asking for impact fee credits. We're not asking for housing trust fund loans. So what we have put in our proposal to the county is that we will have 75% at the 50 to 100 range. This is the distribution that we anticipate. We will have residents at every range, but for full transparency, I want to let you know, because we're doing private financing, we're still refining these numbers. This is our anticipated distribution, however.
So I swear I got a 5 in AP Calculus, so I promise this isn't a
I
stupid
did not,
question.
so.
So the statement was that 75% of the units will be available for households at 100% AMI or below, right? 50 to 100%?
Yeah.
This doesn't add up
The
to
number-
75% though. How does that, how do you explain that?
It's actually more. This is,
I guess I'm asking, are these subsets of one another, or are they distinct variables separate from one another?
it's my understanding these are separate bands. So this is what we anticipate will happen. It's better than what we're saying to the county
This
that
would be
we're gonna do.
92% of the units would be available at 100% AMI and below. Are we on the record saying that's what's going to happen?
No, what we're on the record saying is we'll have 75%. This is what we're hoping is going to happen. But again, these numbers are subject to change. But the
Hoping isn't-
75% is not.
Yes, ma'am. Hoping isn't legally binding, so I would like to know the specifics on that, and I'll give you guys a moment to think about it. The other question I have would be, a HUD number for Orange County, housing and urban development for the Kissimmee, Sanford, Orlando Metro, or?
The metro area. We're using the HUD numbers for the metropolitan statistical area.
Okay, and then the other was, for what period of time are these going to remain affordable at these levels?
Okay, so Disney will be placing a deed restriction on the property for 75 years to deed restrict the property to have the 75% of affordable housing at under 100% of the AMI. So that's what Disney will be doing with the restrictions on the property, which, as we have mentioned, is longer than many restrictions, even for projects that receive public financing.
Great, thank you. I guess I'm still really hoping for an answer to my first question, because the math doesn't add up, and I'm just trying to understand how that works. It's a pretty big deal, actually.
For now, the commitment that the company is making is the 75% of the units will be at the 100% level and below. Again, this is what we project will actually happen in the project, but the commitment is the 75% at 100 or below.
That's a very different statement than saying it's an affordable housing project. Because I know we said it's an attainable housing project, but attainable is not an officially recognized term. It's more of like saying clean coal as an industry term. So what the applicant is committing to is that 75% of these units will be made available at no higher than 100% of the area median income, so families at that level don't spend more than 30% of their income on that housing.
Right.
Not necessarily that you're going down to 50%, which would be the level required for affordable housing vouchers from our jurisdictions. So it's possible you might not have any affordable housing vouchers available for this complex?
No, it's my understanding that our proposal meets the definition of affordable housing for Orange County.
I agree with you. I just don't agree with Orange County's definition for affordable housing.
Okay.
I tend to use the standard for housing and urban development because I think Orange County's definition is extremely flawed. But you're using HUD numbers for the AMI.
Yes.
But what we're really committing to is that 100% AMI below, not necessarily 50 to 100%. There's an attempt to be made, but the commitment's not to that's going to happen at these exact levels.
We have, there will be a percentage of the housing at 50 to 100, but at this point, we don't know the exact breakdown for each band.
It's very disappointing. And I mean, this is, while Disney World hasn't lost a vote in Orange and Osceola County since 1963, but the land development issues that Walt Disney World Resorts and Parks has had since this spot was chosen over St. Louis, Missouri in 1963 has been always really muddled by this exact type of problem, where one thing is purported and then another thing happens. And this is why it makes it really, really challenging, even though the need, you're not going to find anybody in the county that has a better understanding and desire and passion for the need for affordable housing than this guy right here. And so I'm desperate for the affordable housing, but I'm not desperate enough that we are putting something out there that potentially is a little disingenuous. Now, I get that you're saying we're going to work towards this end, but one of the earlier speakers talking about Michael's organization, they are the largest affordable housing developer in the country, but they're not without controversy. And so, because we have some problems with both organizations not having always done the things that they said they were going to do, this makes it really concerning overall for me. But those are my questions. I might have some comments, Mr. Chair, at the end, but that was all my questions for now.
Okay. Thank you. I think Commissioner Boers, you had your name up there. Did you still have
Yes, I
comments?
do. So my biggest concerns is this is in my district, and this is a very troublesome travel area. The traffic's not getting any better. There's no defined dates on the road work. It is all partnership work at this time. When we had our last meeting, February 15th, less than a month later, there's a student from Water Spring Elementary that was struck by a vehicle right there, where every resident who had the concerns about the safety and the impacts of putting all these additional vehicles on the road, the truth came right then and there. Do I believe this is an affordable housing project that Disney's proposing? I do not. I really don't. I feel like it's been gaslighted as such. And I believe that this is just too much of a density for the area to hold at this time. It puts a huge conflict with Orange County. This is something that was never in any long-term planning, and you're placing over 1,400 units now into Orange County that we're trying to already catch up in this area. I don't see this as being a smart choice. I really don't. Had this been a part of long-term range planning, that this particular parcel was always included, I believe that would have been ideal, but it was not. And to come in now and add this sort of density in a troublesome area, it's just not the right time regardless. But I do I do fear for the safety of the residents in the area. I think that there's been many challenges. We heard another situation of a student getting struck already. This is going to put a lot more kids walking across Avalon Road. I can't vote in support of this project. It's something that I feel is just too much for the area at this time. Although affordable housing is extremely needed, but to not have those specific numbers currently and everything's just proposed, I just don't see that as enough convincing that this project's gonna alleviate all of that. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. For the applicant, you articulated a deed restriction. Can you explain to us what a deed restriction is and what the contents of the deed restriction you're saying you're going to have, how that will work?
Yes, Commissioner. Disney will place a binding covenant on the land that will limit the community to the definition of affordable housing as accepted in Orange County, which what we are proposing is 75% of the units will be at the 100% AMI or lower. This is a mixed income community. Not all the units will be within that band, but 75% of the units will. So that is our proposal for restricting the use of the property. Because again, this is a private project without a request for public loans or funding.
And so with a deed restriction, what would be the manner with which you could develop that property and utilize it in violation of that 75% covenant?
The user of the property would be required to comply with the deed restriction.
And if they don't, can you articulate for us what the redress would be, or?
There could be multiple remedies against the user.
Okay. I continue to be in support of this project. I point out that affordable housing, the way we usually see it, is subject to regulatory structures that are built, structured in a way to incentivize developers to do affordable housing, to make the economics viable. I applaud the applicant because they're coming up with a solution that is not, while being willing to tie themselves to some definition of affordable housing as set forward in our county's governance, they're not doing so with the request for additional governmental support for that. And so, yes, there's a significant amount of growth in that area, and we've heard through multiple cases here today that unfortunately our roads don't get built and our schools don't get built prior to the need being set in concrete. I said before when we had this last on our agenda before that the growth in Horizons West is indicative of the fact that so many people have moved there. And there's a lot of really good things happening there, and I continue to hear those concerns, but I think at the same time, a lot of the frustrations I hear are not seeing the entirety of the issue and the value of this for the community. This project has been through a very orderly process with several meetings, and the fact that it continues to progress through the established order for how these projects are evaluated, to me, is indicative of the fact that it does meet the merits worthy of support. So I continue to support this project.
Thank you. I'd just like to make some comments or have some questions for the applicant as well. Someone mentioned the previous project at Flamingo Crossings. I know that that's much closer to the the West Gate entrance to Walt Disney World. And presumably, many of the employees that would live here would be working at Walt Disney World. So that just kind of brings to the question about, like, why did you not want to put it at Flamingo Crossings, as I believe it was previously proposed, which is closer to the actual entrance?
Yes, sir. So originally, I believe our announcement of this project has always been at this property. However, we had indicated it was in the area or in the vicinity of Flamingo Crossings. Disney chose this property. We do have a project, or Disney does have a project at Flamingo Crossings. That is essentially cast members who are students. It's different, a different configuration, and that is where they live, on temporary program. The intent for this project was very different. It was intended to serve the community as a whole. It was intended to include families who will be part of the community, and we wanted that for our residents. So that is part of what led us to choose this site, and we had a different configuration of residents who were more appropriate for the other location.
Okay. I think that's reasonable, but I'm also concerned that and one of the previous speakers, whether they were on the commission or from the public, brought up the idea of affordable housing and transit services needing to go together. And they absolutely do, because the people that are in need of affordable housing are the people that are already find themselves burdened with transportation cost. So the availability of public transportation goes together with affordable housing. You know, it would be easy to provide affordable housing or attainable housing in far-flung areas that don't have transportation services, but that doesn't really serve the need. People that are in need of affordable housing are also in need of affordable transportation. And without locating it or providing this as part of the project, it's not really addressing that need. And then also I wanted to say that this definition between attainable and affordable has been something that even in your slide it says attainable, and then you were up here saying affordable. So there's a lot of confusion about that. I appreciate that you gave us that list. That's what your intent is. But when you told us what the restriction is going to be, that's a very different thing. And that could be all of the units are priced for 100% of the local income level versus what is truly affordable, which is more like the scale with the different levels of affordability. That's more what I would like to see as something that's legitimate affordable housing, so I'm concerned with that. I share that concern with some of my fellow commissioners here. I'm concerned about the availability of transportation. And also, I just wanted to point out, I understand why the entrances for vehicles might be in a certain place, but just because that's the optimal place for the vehicles to come and go, doesn't make it the optimal place for pedestrians to come and go. In fact, any rational pedestrian is going to find the short route. I walk a lot, and I'm not going to walk along an inconvenient route that makes me walk further. I'm going to find a way to take the direct route, and you can expect your residents that are on foot to do this, whether they're children or adults. If they're going to the Publix and they're going to walk, they're going to find a cut through. And if there's no crosswalk there, then they're going to be put into danger. So I think it's really important that when you design the transportation networks that you consider and acknowledge that what makes the right choice for vehicles is not the same as what makes the right choice for pedestrians. And I don't really see that you have done that in your site plan. So those are my concerns about your proposal. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chairman. To the first issue, as far as our slide indicating attainable, the reason that we have it as attainable is because it is a mixed-use community. So we will have 75% of the units that meet Orange County's definition of affordable housing and actually meet the statutory definition of very low income or moderate low income. So that was why we termed the entire community attainable. It has a significant affordable component, but it is not all affordable. So that is that. I would like to have Mohammed come up and talk briefly about the walkability and some of your traffic concerns.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Spears, Vice Chairman Spears. All very good points that you're making. Starting with the transit and availability of transit, it's a bit of a conundrum. You can't have transit until you have the population and the density and the demand, and you can't have the population and the density and the demand, if you don't serve it. So taking this step to bring affordable, attainable units to this community that is currently has significant demand for that type of product and bringing it closer. I mean, the employees that are coming and the people who are working in this community that are driving in from further afield, they're having to drive long distances to get here, whether it's to the commercial centers or whether it's to Disney or the hospital or the many areas in the Horizon West plan where need to be served by not all professional level jobs. So those people are still coming in by providing this product here. At worst, you're shortening their distance. But there's another component to this community that has the transportation center that we've talked about previously, the hub. The hub has been basically programmed to provide transportation alternatives to the residents. As you heard from my colleagues, it is a mixed income community. There are different levels of income earners in the community. And the hub is intended to do things like find carpooling opportunities, find ride-sharing opportunities, so that residents can also take advantage of other resources that are there, in addition to other publicly available transportation options. Today, the transit isn't there. Lynx doesn't serve this area, but that doesn't mean that the people don't still need to get there and still need to work there. So linking transportation and jobs and bringing them closer actually improves on the network. As far as walkability goes, you're right, pedestrians will walk where they walk. If, I don't have the site plan here, but if you look at it, the way the spine road comes in, actually it wasn't placed there just for vehicular purposes. There would have been better places to go. But for pedestrian purposes as well. If you look across the street, the commercial across the street is bookended by 2 signals, the way we've planned it. So any resident that's in this community is really directed either to the north, which is at the Hartzog and Avalon signal, where they can cross at a signalized intersection, or if they're coming out, there's only one way out, and it's along that east-west spine road, which hits the signal and provides access to the south end of the commercial. In order to cross mid-block, they would have to walk alongside Avalon, so backtrack to get to mid-block and cross.
Exactly. That was my point, is that pedestrians are not going to do this.
I agree.
Pedestrians are going to do what's most efficient for them. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I don't follow the sidewalk. If the sidewalk goes in a inefficient way, I just ignore it. And that's what all pedestrians will do. So you can expect that. I don't think that I had anything else at this time. Thanks.
I had a clarification for my comment to Commissioner Gray. This is embarrassing. I did say I didn't pass AP Calc, so I'm going to own that. That's why I'm a lawyer, not an accountant. The chart that I put up, it added up to 100%. It was 100% of the 75%. So my apologies. And we can commit that we will have residents in each band. Breaking it down to that level, by the 10% level. You know, we don't want to be in a position where we have 20 people in the 50% and we can't accept somebody in the 60% and we have to leave apartments vacant and can't provide because we don't meet the specific 10% band. But we can commit that we will have residents within each band. We won't have everybody at the 100% or in the rest of the attainable community. So again, forgive my math error.
Okay, and I just wanted to make another point. You know, when we're talking about transit, we're talking about density, and as you said, Mohammed, they're related in a very strong way. Transit can really only work when you have a certain density of population, and so trying to keep the population down is working against the goal of increasing the potential viability of transit in the area. So I actually am in favor of higher density rather than low because of that, because I know that we need to provide these kind of services. So anyway, I've probably said enough, so let me turn it over to Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. First of all, to the public and my fellow commissioners, I apologize for being late. I had an appointment for my son today. But I would like to compliment our county colleagues at Orange TV because the audio was very clean and clear as I listened to everything regarding this case and some prior this morning. Listened, not watched while I was driving. So. With that said, I do have a few comments and a few thoughts on this project. First of all, I want to thank everybody who spoke on this today. I heard a lot of research today in some of the speakers. Commissioner Gray, I want to thank you. Prior to my arrival, I heard you talk about the numbers and everything else that was found, and I really appreciate your thoughts and your commitment to those numbers and the county's numbers, so I appreciate you sharing that. One of the things that the Vice Chair and I have always agreed on, I think, is on infill and on projects that create a further density where one already exists. I know that when Mr. Abdullah was a commissioner with us up here over the years, his big issue was cross-access. At least that's how I remember it. And from that perspective, I actually think it's analogous to one of the suggestions I have for this project, and it is pedestrian access. I think particularly with what surrounds this project, we need to make sure that a very difficult area becomes pedestrian friendly. But I do, even if not reaching the threshold for affordable, I do think that there is a need in this community, and particularly in this part of our county, for this type of residential, and for, if nothing else, and I suppose I should use air quotes, but attainable housing. And so from that perspective, I think it's worthy. I appreciate your time, Mr. Chair, and everybody's. Thank you.
Thank you.
And one more.
Okay.
Do I need to hit the cue?
Please, no, go ahead.
I wanted to say a couple more things. Appreciate School Board Member Gould coming and speaking. I think she probably had to step out, but I appreciate her taking the time to do that. And also appreciate the Reverend Mary Downey from Kissimmee making the time to come up here. She's a phenomenal leader in our community. And I also wanted to really commend Sarah Hibbs. Your presentation was fantastic, and we see a lot of public comment that comes through here, and that was probably the best overall organized public comment that I've ever seen. So really, really fantastic job. Somebody else made the comment about that we're growing too fast, I think in the public comment. And I completely understand the sentiment, but it's kind of like pushing back on the ocean. We can't stop people from moving here. We're not going to build a wall at I-10. And people are moving into this community at record numbers. I think it's something like 1,500 a week into the state or something along those lines. I actually don't know the exact number, but it's remarkable. And that's going to continue to happen. And as it continues to happen, we're going to continue to need more housing. And it's just the nature of it. And the problem that we have here in Central Florida is that we have set ourselves apart from other communities around the country in that we have one of the more dangerous affordable housing problems in the community. And I just wanted to explain just for a second. You guys have probably heard of a guy named Elon Musk. So for Elon Musk, who I believe is the wealthiest person on the planet, all housing is affordable. He could buy any castle, mansion, or Versailles if he wanted to, and it wouldn't mean more than 30% of his income. But if Sarah Hibbs and I bought a piece of property next to each other in Horizon West, identical square footage, right next door to each other, everything was the same, but I'm spending 31% of my income on it, and she's spending 29% of her income, she is in affordable housing, I am not. So the definition of affordability really doesn't have a whole lot to do, it doesn't have as much to do with the quality of the housing or the size of the housing as much as it does with the income of the people in it. And unfortunately, we have very low incomes here in Central Florida. Historically, we've had some of the lowest median incomes, and we've started to crawl out of the bottom, recently, but we still have very low median incomes. And what happens is for the median income right now, if my math is correct, and I'm not entirely certain that it is, so to afford an apartment at 100% of the area median income, when you're working a full-time job and it's just one earner, that would be somebody earning $43 an hour, working full-time. Or two people in the household that are equally earning the same at $21 an hour. And the challenge is that when we set these levels at something like 100% AMI, we're eliminating half the community can afford to live in that particular complex if that's the only threshold that we stick with. But what I'm really concerned about is that we're not moving towards solutions with this. So, for example, Mayor Adams from New York City 2 weeks ago came out with a big public pronouncement saying that New York City's affordable housing crisis was extremely dramatic, and he stated for the first time that I had ever heard, put a number on the number of housing units that are actually short. And he said 500,000 affordable housing units in the 5 boroughs. That's a big number. The next week after that, one of the presidential candidates stated that the housing deficit in the United States was approximately 7 million housing units, apartments, homes, whatever you want to think of it as. I don't know if that number is accurate, but that's a lot. I've been trying to work really hard with a number of other much smarter PhDs in this community than me, that we think that the housing deficit is somewhere north of 170,000 units just here in the 3-county area, and that number might be soft, and we're still working on it. And as soon as I finish the work we're doing with the University of Florida and their program at the Rinker School, that we'll come back and report some of that. Having said that, the need for any housing that is anything below market rate is so desperate that I feel like we have to take whatever opportunities we can to take advantage of it. I'm about to go back from this meeting to a facility 2 miles from here where I'll see 400 people who lived on the street last night. And it's entirely because of our affordable housing problem. It's not because of mental health, it's not because of addiction, it's not because of poverty, it's because of housing. And so we have to take whatever opportunities we can to try and do this. But my concern is that I really am imploring the Walt Disney organization and the Michaels organization to stick to what they have committed to here today, because it's very precedent setting. And so while the Catchlight Crossings project was one of the bigger affordable housing developments led by a major corporation in the community, and this will be another, we also there's programs that are rumored in the pipeline for many other major employers in this community. and some of which you would be, wouldn't be surprised to hear, and some you'd be very surprised to hear, because they're all concerned about having employees that can actually live in the community. So I think I have to vote in favor of this, because I think I'm going to take the applicant at their word that this is what they're attempting to do. They've worked in good faith in the project for a long time, and I hope that it sticks. The 75-year commitment is pretty great. We usually don't get more than a 50-year commitment on these types of projects. Sometimes we only get 20. And this is, frankly, I think, the first major affordable housing project to come in front of us for some type of approval since I've been on the commission. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's the first. So I hope that it is precedent setting, that we'll see others that will come together and they will use the example that Walt Disney has set, and that they will go forward with the project successfully because we are in such desperate need for it. And I thank you guys for allowing me to share some of that.
Thank you. Commissioner Fernandez, did you have some more there?
I wanted to, since I don't have an opportunity to speak to him outside of this body, I wanted to thank Commissioner Gray for his comments and his work, and say that those are, you did a much more articulate job than I did or could have in articulating the reasons for my support of this project. So thank you for that.
Okay, so this is in District 1.
Yep. I'd like to make a finding of inconsistency with the comprehensive plan, determine the proposed amendment is not in compliance, and not recommend adoption of amendment 2023 3A11 and request to expand Horizons West, and not request to expand Horizons West Village H special planning area boundary, and not apply the Village 4 future land use map designation to the subject property, and make a finding of inconsistency with the comprehensive plan, and not recommend approval of rezoning case LUP 2306-183 Hartzog Road Attainable Housing Community Plan Development Land Use Plan, dated received June 11, 2024, subject to the 23 conditions listed in the staff report, including one requested waiver from Orange County Code.
So we have a motion. Do I hear a second? Okay, in the absence of a second, the motion dies, and do I hear another motion?
I'd like to move to make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan, determine that the proposed amendment is in compliance, and recommend adoption of amendment 2023 3-A-1-1, a request to expand the Horizon West Village H special planning area, SPA boundary, and apply the village future land use map designation to the subject property. And additionally, make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan and recommend approval of rezoning case LUP-23-06-183 Hartzog Road Attainable Housing Community Plan Development / Land Use Plan, dated received June 11, 2024, subject to the 23 conditions listed in the staff report, including one requested waiver from Orange County Code.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes. And let's see. So we have lunch? Okay, let's break for lunch, and then we will meet for the work session after lunch.